Okay, now we've taken a general look at Mindflexing, let's look at the detail of how to do it. First though, before I step right into that detail, it's really important to be clear on why Mindflexing is so important. Now we've taken a look at the concept of megatrends, so I'd like to now talk to you about 4 different megatrends that we call the 4 forces of change. And these are what are creating this volatile environment that we're all operating in. So the first to be aware of is social impact. Now, I probably don't have to talk much more about this. You recognise what's going on in the world. Impact socially has always been critical to society, but now more than ever, people expect organisations, expect businesses, expect individuals, expect leaders to be far more aware of the social impact they're having. So why has that shift occurred? Well, you can then look at the next megatrend, which is networked acceleration. So we love to talk about the world being faster than ever before, and there's always a risk that every generation feels that their age is faster than the one before. And often it is, but you have to say, well, what is it about this time that's making it so fast? And it's the fact that we're all networked, that we're connected together. So for example, you're far more aware of the social impact that's happening on the other side of the world from an action that's here. Or something new that you create all of a sudden could be transferred to another part of the world, that same concept, that same idea. At the same time as you've got that sort of predictable shift and change, we're living in a time of unpredictable volatility. And it's not something I have to talk to you about because you're living in it, you know it, but how do you deal with it? How do you cope as a leader when the world feels like it's moving all around on you? Well, one of the things to look closer at is the 4th megatrend, which is the 4th industrial revolution. You may well be familiar with the term. If you haven't heard the term before, we'll be taking more of a look at it. But at a top level, it's the fact that the digital revolution was actually the 3rd industrial revolution. So each of these century-long shifts, we're already into the 4th industrial revolution. And that's about the fusion of the physical and biological environments with digital information. So whether it's a drone being digitally controlled in the physical environment, giving information to a person, maybe you've been to a parking garage where you don't have to look at an app to know where a free park is. You can look at the physical environment lighting up and showing you the way to move forward. Now, this thing of moving forward, this is what Mindflexing is all about. So having an awareness of these 4 forces of change is almost giving you the foundations to base your thinking, to give you strength to flex around. Then as a leader navigating through that space, helping others to move through that space, you approach that with this Mindflex way of working. And if you have a look here at the concept of Mindflex, you'll notice sitting in the middle of it is this word leap. So all of this is designed to be memorable. This is why we're taking time to connect the dots between different ways of thinking, different ways of working. Now, the concept of mindset, well, what does set actually mean? And right now you may be slightly annoyed that you can't read the type behind me because I'm way too set and I won't get out of the way. Because set means to be fixed in a specified place or position. So when someone talks about developing a new mindset or shifting their mindset, it's still like saying, well, right now I'm here and I need to be here. And that's fine if there was the right place, but then when the world changes on you again and now you need to be here or you need to be here. And I think you know where I'm heading with this because it's shifting from a mindset to having a mind flex. And flex means to bend, move, or stretch in order to exercise. And it's a critical concept because a lot of people are very strong-minded. And I was one of those people. I used to feel for a lot of my life if I believe something strongly, that must make it so. It must be true. And it was quite a revelation to realize that that isn't the case. But a deeper revelation was knowing that letting go of your opinion doesn't make you weak-willed. Because you can always return to that previous viewpoint. But if you stay set in a perspective, you don't have the ability to flex and explore other ways of working. Think about people who are physically flexible. They have strength, they have the ability to flex, to move. Same thing with the mind. So this is what we're developing here with your Mindflex. So as I mentioned before, this word leap is designed so that you can actually learn this way of thinking. So often you'll do a training course, and I've never seen anyone, for example, I facilitate a lot of workshops, and no one's ever gone, that's a really complex problem, let me just go get my training manual, or let me pull out my phone and look at the PDF, or rerun the videos. So ultimately this learning, this Mindflex for Leaders, has to be something that is memorable. And the great news is, you really only need to remember one word, and that's the word leap. Because the first letter of each of the 4 different Mindflexes we're going to be learning spells out this concept of leap. So over the course, we're going to be looking at how you leverage, how you expand your thinking, how you become more progressive, and how you apply active thinking to shift and change the world around you. And you do that by pushing your thinking in 2 different axes. And I find it really useful to think about the physical movement associated with that. So right here, right now, we're in the present. But in order to create new possibilities, then what you have to do is look further forward into the future. So this progressive mindset is about looking more forward than other people. So far forward that other people might not even be able to see where you are. But at the same time, you're not the only person creating the future. So what's happened in the past that you can build on, that you can learn from? Standing on the shoulders of giants. One of the keys to Mindflexing is I'm often not talking about old timeless wisdom. I'm talking about something that might be happening right now, just yesterday, just last week, somewhere else in the world, that you'd have the ability to find that information if you chose to look out for it. So the ability to Mindflex and go, actually, before I create something, let me leverage what already exists. Then the other axis to push your mind is vertically up and down. So if you think about the people who change the world, they are the ones who let their minds wander. That's why we have phrases like blue sky thinking. So to Mindflex, to innovate, to be a visionary, you actually have to let your thinking wander up to the impossible. And it's often really hard to do that within an organisation because the organisation is conditioned to go, well, it has to be possible. Tell me how we can do that. But ideas begin by letting your mind go to the impossible. However, there's a real danger that in this day and age, a lot of people create a lot of ideas, they put them on a lot of post-it notes all over the walls, and then they don't necessarily do anything with it. So this is then why another mode of thinking, this active mode of thinking, is really, really critical. And we've been trained to think that you think by having meetings and sitting down and reflecting and talking, but the act of building is actually still just thinking. So it's Mindflexing, it's getting new information in. So it's actually a different mode of thinking. And between the impossible and the possible is where that impact lies. So the Mindflexing is pushing your mind in those different directions to create that future within it. Now, that enables you to leap forward into the future. So again, notice that word leap tells you the modes, and you can say, I've been doing a lot of progressive thinking, but have I expanded my thinking upwards? Or actually, have I been doing a lot of blue sky thinking, but have I actually started to test some of those possibilities? Or who else in my organisation or outside my organisation might have ideas that will help leverage it further forward? Now, there's quite a lot of complexity that we're talking about here. So if we come back to those 4 forces, one of the things you want to do with Mindflexing is not try and fight against those forces, right? So you know how that can do damage in the physical world if you just try and fight against something. So remember, the concept of Mindflexing is what you're doing is you're actually navigating your way forward through that. Now, the reason that we've got a course is that you can take your time to just gradually build your understanding of each of these concepts. But what I like to keep in mind is that essence of thought that helps me navigate forward to remember what the core of mind flexing is. And you can actually see it here in the middle, that ultimately what we're doing here is very, very simple. So this is the essence of mind flexing, that concept of leap. And it's not a sequential, have to do one after the other. It's the ability to constantly flex your way forward. Because if we now sort of bring that concept back into that world that is around us, rather than sort of fighting against it, think of it more like navigating through the rapids. So at times you're actually going with those forces, but at other times you're saying, we need some space, I need to move out, I need to navigate my way forward. Again, think about those signals through the mist, through the fog, through the rain. It's the same thing here. Those are guiding you where you need to head. And so it's giving you a different way of thinking, a different way of looking at the world. So let's get underway now. So we're doing this thing of actually how do we mind flex and why are we doing it? We're doing it in order to be future ready. So speaking of that, let's head forward into that future because I'm ready and I'm sure you are too. So let's get going.